Hi everybody, I'm Lynn Smaltz with Plasma Energy Solution, and this is January 31st, 2021. Thank you for joining me. This is part 2 in a 2-part video series on water and water stores memory. And as I said in the first video, we do a process with our plasma energy solution combinations where we are storing the memory of, this happens to be CO2 and CuO2, in what is called GANs, or gas in the atomic nanosolid state. So what you see in the bottom that is colored is the GANs. The GANs then has the memory stored of what it was made from. We add the water, and then the water holds the memory of what the GANs has stored in it. So when you receive anything from us, you are not going to get a jar of colored GANs. You're going to get a jar of the water that is above the GANs, and we're using in the months of the year that we can get it. There's a really wonderful mountain spring about 12 miles away that we can get wonderful straight out of the mountain water. We can use stream water when the time of the year is right, and otherwise we are using filtered water. And we are in a little mountain town that has as its water source the water that is coming out of the mountains, although as we all know there's many municipal additions. Now, as I said in the first video, nanoparticles are not visible particles to the eye, okay? So I'm holding this up because Dr. Paul did these several years ago, and you can see there's several plates. There's even some coiled wire. The wire I'm holding is copper wire, and all of these had nanolayers applied by Dr. Paul by using a torch and burning those layers on there. And when you get a good, and these have been outside for a couple years adding more nano layers, but when you get a good covering to them, the entire plate is going to be black. That's going to be about 50,000 layers. And as you can see, this one had a little rubbed off of it because it was right against the fence and it was kind of banging and rubbing against the fence when it was windy. So I want to continue where I left off with the video about water, and I've given you a link. There's a free report with this video that I will have by the 2nd or 3rd of February on plasmaenergysolution.com. You can go to the home page, go to the right, and look for the little symbol that says free reports, and you can access that report there. So there was discussion about, well, in 1932, sensational news traveled around the world. American physicists Harold Urey and Albert Osborn had discovered that in addition to ordinary water, heavy water also exists in nature, called deuterium 20. The splitting of deuterium was the basis of creation of the most destructive bomb, the hydrogen bomb. Everybody knows very well what radioactive radiation can cause, but it turns out there are even more awesome effects. Rather more horrific is the change in the structure of water covering huge areas, thousands of miles larger than the nuclear weapons testing grounds. It makes no difference whether the test was carried out in the atmosphere, the ground, or underground. Victor Ilyushin, Doctor of Sciences, Professor, Head of Biophysics, Department of the Kazakhstan University in Kazakhstan. Colossal changes occur in the water, and the water's memory changes, and people drink that water. Animals drink it, and suddenly terrible changes take place. And there are a lot of pictures that go along with this discussion in the video. And the video goes on. When the explosion occurs, waves are formed which die out fairly quickly in the ground. But the water may continue to fluctuate for another 30 days. Swinging like a pendulum, the waves create a new and pathological ordering in the water, and it has been noted that the number of suicides rises abruptly after such tests. Victor Inyushin says, by a factor of 2, 2.5, or 3, medical experts have absolutely no explanation for this, but we could understand this. We showed the brain is made of water, about 85%. So these changes that take place in the brain and then a conflict of the water structure arises. The bioplasm of the brain is disrupted, and the result is that the person is deprived of such an important incentive as the drive to live. Alexander Solodikov says, we have 2 containers of emulsified crude oil, which is a byproduct of oil production, a stable combination of water and oil, which remains bound in this state for many years. The test sample is irradiated. The element will treat 1 container for 7 days, making the water molecules lessen their contact with the oil molecules. After 4 days, we compare the test sample and the control. The water has separated from the oil. At the boundary of the oil and the water, there are crater-like formations. This means that the separate process is continuing. The fields we use to influence the water are comparable in intensity with the electromagnetic field of the human heart. On the 7th day of treatment, the experiment is finished. The water has completely separated from the oil. And in the video, it continues to say that nowhere in the world is water the same, breaking its way to the surface through minerals and ores. Water assimilates the vibrations of the soil and information about its specific biologic and energetic features. Konstantin Korotkov. We tested a sample of purified municipal water, which is sold in large bottles. The producer put a label on them which says, "It is the best water in the world." But it is empty and dead. True, it is pure and it's good, and some minerals have been added, but this is dead water in which there is no energetics and there is no life. Most likely people do not sense any particular difference between naturally pure and artificially purified water, but any animal will always choose water from a spring because that water is loaded with natural energies. And just as an aside here, I'll mention that a farmer in the southern United States set up some of the plasma energy water that he had received from us, and he put it in a plastic water bottle and hung it in one of his watering troughs. And he had several because he had several farm animals and a larger property. All of them went to that particular trough to drink from and quit drinking out of the other ones until he added another plastic bottle full of the plasma energy water to those other troughs, and then they drank out of all of them. So, and I do make the plasma water and several combinations available to my cats, and I have, well, they have 4 different places they can drink water. You know how people spoil their pets. But 3 of them have aquarium pumps in them, and that is always their water of choice because it just adds an energy to the water that they seem to like. Vladimir Voykov, Doctor of Sciences, Professor of the Biology Facility of Moscow State University, Russia. The burning of natural water. The water itself burns. The reason it burns is precisely that natural water is structured in a natural way. Burning in rigorous scientific terms is a process of oxidation in which heat and light are given off. In the case of water, it burns at a temperature of the environment, and the light emitted can be recorded by using super-sensitive instruments. In burning, you have oxygen being continuously activated, and some organic matter is continuously burning. So the burning of water is a process that is over an extended period of time. If it were a process that happened more quickly, it would already have burned up all the water on Earth. Dr. Masaru Emoto says, let's imagine that here we have a human being and here we have water. The water contains many types of information. If we introduce this water into the human body, then this human body will assimilate this information, which may change the human's characteristics. Let us see how this type of water affects blood. And there's a portion in the video where there's a demonstration by Pearl LaPerla, a doctor of medicine immunologist in Nevada. And what she had to say is she was working with some special type of water, and she did not say what it was in the video. These are red blood cells, and they have lost their electrical charge, so they are all stuck together in a formation called a rouleau. Here is a simplest, and simplasts are associated with heart disease, arthritis, lung disease, and many other conditions that could be coming in the future. Then she shows they stopped there, and then the individual whose blood she just did a pinprick and took a drop of blood, and she said now the person drank some whatever water they were testing, and they waited 12 minutes, and she said, you can see that the cells have become buoyant, slippery, and they have electrical charge, so they repel each other. This allows them to carry oxygen, and it means we are changing the pH of the blood back to an aerobic environment rather than an anaerobic environment. I think that is utterly amazing that just drinking a certain water could do that. And I want to mention that we've had people who have had, maybe they get routine laboratory work, that have given us feedback that their lab work, their blood tests have shown improved qualities in the blood. And we have Dr. Paul's reports because he got 4 lab tests a year because of his kidney transplant. And one of the items they were testing was creatinine clearance, which is showing the function, one of the many functions of the kidney and how well the kidney is working. Well, when we started with the plasma energy water, that transplant was about it's probably about 10 years old. And it was gradually showing signs of wear. And when he was transplanted, a day after the transplant, the creatinine clearance was 1.7, which is a very good clearance for somebody who has spent 8 years on dialysis and had to have artificial clearance in order to live, to get the toxins out of his blood, because the kidneys were not functioning to do that. So what happened is when Dr. Paul started drinking the plasma water, his creatinine clearance was about 2.2. 2.5 is really the danger zone. Your kidney's about finished, and you're going to have to go back on dialysis. And what happened is over time, his creatinine clearance improved to the point that it was, the best we ever saw was 1.6, but it was always in the 1.6 to 1.7 or 1.8 range. So that was quite a difference than the 2.2 range where it was climbing and showing signs of wear on the kidney. Dr. Masaru Emoto in 1995 was the first to record musical impressions on water, and they produced different types of music. And once again, when you go to the video, you'll be able to see the effects on the water of music by Bach, music by Mozart, music by Beethoven, and then a hard rock music. And it's quite interesting to see what the results were with that. So I invite you to get that free report so you can get the video, look at the notes that I've taken, and just learn a little bit more about the water. In another experiment, he placed rice in 3 separate containers of water, and every day for a month he said to the first container, "Thank you." To the second container, he said, "You're an idiot." And to the third container, he simply ignored it. After a month, the rice in the water that had been thanked began to ferment, giving off a strong, pleasant aroma. The rice in the second beaker turned black. The rice that was ignored began to rot. Dr. Emoto had to say about this, "The experiment provides an important lesson, especially in regard to how we treat our children. We should take care of them and give them attention and converse with them. Indifference does the greatest harm. It may not always be easy to do, and almost always it takes practice to do. Practical experience shows that hatred, rage, and even annoyance not only exert a destructive influence on other people, but they also give that feedback." Aloy Gruber from Austria says, "Intellectually, as the level of thought, a person who sends negative thoughts is polluting his own water, of which his body is 75 to 90% composed, and in that way it's giving it a negative charge." Laboratories around the world have repeatedly carried out an experiment that produced similar results to what he's discussing. Water from a single container was divided into 2 portions. One was subjected to the outside influences that changed the structure and property of water. The water in the second flask acquired the same structure and properties over a certain period of time as that in the first flask. Rostam Roy has to say, "The water has important photographic memory, and also you can imprint it with very subtle energies, even from 10,000 kilometers away." Effie Chow, professor, member of the Executive Council on Alternative Medicine in the USA, says, "Our actions are very important. Our actions are related to nature and to the whole cosmos. What one does doesn't just affect themselves, it affects other people in the whole universe." All of the parts, including ourselves, as the video goes on, and the earth are bound together by huge streams of information. 1 billion people across the earth lack access to safe drinking water. Over 5 million people die every year from this reason, and half of those are children. This is 10 times more people than that perish in war every year. If this is left unsolved, water may become a source of international conflict in the 21st century, and already now it is attaining the status of a base resource which is beginning to figure among the political dialogue of countries and people. And you may have run across some articles that talk about Canada and making water deals with a very large country across the ocean. All of the parts, Alexander Solodkov. If you ask the ordinary man on the street today whether or not man and human activity are to blame for increased number of hurricanes on the planet and their increased destructive force, I think every other person will say yes, This is a consequence of human activity. Effie Chow says, I think what is happening in our world today, the tsunamis, the freak weather, terrorism, and the fear that is gripping us are a result of unhealthy individual health, which affects the other way and is the result of water being polluted. And that can be pollution physically or by emotions, as you're seeing in this information. Dr. Emoto, there have been many wars on religious grounds in human history, but in our experiment, water reacted to individual words that had a religious content by forming beautiful crystals. So they took a major prayer from several of the major religions, and all the waters formed beautiful crystals. That means that the conception of our nature coincides with a religion, depending on where that might be in the world for you. The laboratory containers of water that were inscribed by Dr. Emoto's laboratory had hieroglyphics and words with well-known people, along with love, soul, and hope, and these also produce beautiful crystals. I encourage you to take a look at this video. It's really important information, and I just want to remind you again that no matter what ends up as the final color of a GANS that has been produced, this is CO2 and copper oxide, and this is from many different products, herbs, minerals, vitamins, and leaves, roots, and this is called Lime Relief. So you can see there's a very different result, but when you get a vial of it or when you receive pads of it, they're going to look clear. But I want to remind you that the nanoparticles that create the gas in the atomic nanosolid state, which you see at the bottom of each of these containers, holds the memory of everything that went in to make that gas in the atomic nanosolid state. We add water, which holds memory, and then that holds the memory of what is in the GANS, and the water holds the memory, and that is what comes your way. So I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you will share it with others. I hope this has given you a good understanding of the plasma energy that we are utilizing with Plasma Energy Solution. And we have a lot of videos in which Dr. Paul was also explaining the nature of the plasma energy. And it's all created for bringing balance to the body so that the body can heal itself. So I want to thank those of you who might be placing an order right now. One of the things I've decided to do as one single individual here on the planet is to send out peace vial or peace pads at no charge to you with every order I send. Thanks again. And do visit our website. Give us a thumbs up if you've liked this video. And please do share it with your family and friends. Have a great day.